And as we continue our time here at the National Association of Farm Broadcasting Convention in Kansas City, Missouri, pleased to be joined right now by John Bode, president with Corn Refiners Association. John, it is so great to see you again, sir. How are you?
Good to be with you, Jesse. I'm doing well.
It's been a little while since we've had a conversation, and there has been plenty of things happening, impacting agriculture since the last time
Absolutely.
you and I talked. And I think, of course, a lot of this focuses on the trade conversation and tariffs and having these markets for our products like corn, et cetera, et cetera. And, as we near the end of the year now, there's still plenty of volatility. There's frameworks, there's deals, there's all these things happening out there. Your perspective on where this all stands as we near the end of the year. I think that's just a good spot for us to start here, John.
I think it's a great spot, Jesse. To me, it's all about markets. That's what really ties all of us in agriculture together. And trade is so important for agriculture. It's important for corn and corn products, but across the spectrum in agriculture. And as I see it, we have the reciprocal tariff negotiations going on, and lots of framework agreements, and some of those are now starting to really reach completion. So we're getting new, and all of those really are concessions from trading partners. And so that's the opportunity to build some better opportunities for our exports. But the big thing is USMCA.
Mm-hmm.
So we're entering review. There is no trade agreement as important to American agriculture as USMCA. Mexico and Canada are American agriculture exports number 1 and 2 markets. So what we do with China is important. I think we certainly don't want to decouple from China, but USMCA is the big deal. It is the gold standard trade agreement of the U.S., and we need to recognize that it benefits agriculture and it benefits American consumers because it is also fundamental to the choices and the price of food through North America. It is the reason that North America is the most food secure region of the world. And we need to move forward with that because there are pressures to pull it apart.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up USMCA. And I know you've been on the front lines of dealing with some of these negotiations, when it was NAFTA originally, and then when USMCA came around, and now we got the review. And I talked to Luke Lindbergh with USDA earlier this week. He talked about the importance of reviewing USMCA and kind of doing no harm. And to your point, our most important trading partners are at our north and south borders. And so thinking about this, I mean, this is going to be maybe a delicate conversation, but a very important one here over the next several months.
Yes, absolutely. There are some sensitive issues in agriculture, but also there are very sensitive issues outside of agriculture. And then there are some overarching issues that affect agriculture and may be driven more heavily by some other sectors. So an example is there is what's different now than when USMCA is negotiated is the pressure to figure out how to deal with non-market economies. So Chinese pressure where subsidized goods are coming in from China, that's largely an outside of agriculture concern, but it does affect agriculture as well.
Another thought I have too as well is our domestic markets here. And you guys, I know you have the Feeding the Economy report that you put out. You part of it really takes a look at some of the impact here on just our domestic, economy and more when it comes to agriculture, and obviously corn, such a huge piece of that. So, I mean, thinking about where do we go in 2026 with our domestic demand for corn here in the U.S.? I think that's another big piece of this puzzle as well, John.
Absolutely, Jesse. First of all, we have important domestic uses. There is disruption in being talked about, and the policy environment. So we've got a cabinet member who's talked about radically transforming our food system.
Yes.
And there have been suggestions that we ought to be, dramatically scaling back the sort of crop protection tools that have been available. Some of that has been walked back, but there's also some other non-science-based initiatives that are of real concern because that can disrupt how we use our products. Criticism has been made about high fructose corn syrup. No scientific foundation. Every authoritative scientific group has said it's nutritionally equivalent to sugar. There have been statements that sugar is poison. That is nonsense. The scientific community does not support that. Sugar consumption needs to be moderated, but eliminated? No. So, a more reasoned approach is what's needed, and that's of importance. What's that mean for farmers?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we suddenly replaced high fructose corn syrup, it would cost corn farmers up to $80 an acre. And farmers are already losing. The new corn grower data is over $150 an acre. So that's how that plays out.
Any other final thoughts you'd share with us, John? Other priorities, things that you're going to be watching closely at the Corn Refiners Association as we look ahead to 2026, since we're right on the doorstep here of a new year?
You bet. I think the other thing is to think about the bioeconomy. Mm-hmm. The bioeconomy is the real growth opportunity for American agriculture. At Corn Refineries, we care a lot about that because that is an industry of chemical engineering that thrives in the U.S. because no one in the world produced carbohydrates as efficiently as the American corn farmer. And with the scientific innovation that's happening in fermentation, with precision fermentation, biomanufacturing, marvelous opportunities. I think of ethanol as that, wonderful point of the spear, but there are hundreds, thousands of additional products to come. Maybe none of them as big as ethanol, but a tremendous market opportunity there, and that's where our growth needs to be.
Folks can learn more, corn.org, corn.org. That's the website for the Corn Refiners Association. John Bode, always good to see you, sir. Thanks for joining us here and spending some time on the program with us here in Kansas City.
Great to see you, Jesse. Thanks.